Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever and wherever you're watching or listening. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I am your host, Michael Clifford, a.k.a. Slim Cliffy. Joining me for the next hour to talk about why John Cena is one of the greatest actors of the modern era, country assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how are you doing today, buddy?
Can't say I've ever seen a movie with John Cena yet. I know he's in one of the Fast and the Furious. I haven't caught it yet, but maybe he's good. Maybe it gives the whole cast some attitude adjustments. I don't know. I haven't really seen him.
No, I finished watching Peacemaker a couple days ago. His show on HBO with it's like the spinoff of the Suicide Squad movie that came out this past summer, and it's incredible. Honestly, like it's one of those shows, like, it's great for laughs, tons of laughs. He's a great character, and it has great villains and allies and all that. Anyways, I just thought it was really, really funny. A very, very good show. But we're not here to talk about Peacemaker, though I would, somebody wants to pay me to talk about Peacemaker for an hour, I will certainly do that. We are here to talk NHL. This is the first slate after the All-Star break, so things are getting a little bit back to normal. We're back in our normal time slots. Unfortunately, contests are back to their normal levels as well. We can only do what we can only work with what we have. Before we get too much further, if you guys could, people in chat, be very kind to us and click that like button. The likes really help us out. Click the subscribe button. Those subscriptions especially help us out. They help grow this channel. The road to 420,000 subscribers marches on, and we're gonna keep these shows coming on a regular basis, hopefully. We are brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. Yahoo has been our sponsor this entire season, and they've been very good to us. And if you're new to DFS, or you're new to NHL, or you haven't played on Yahoo before, we have a special giveaway with Yahoo Fantasy. We'll talk about a little bit later in the show. All right, let's talk about last night. Last night was the last big night of the All-Star break. I main cashed. I will take a main cash any day of the week. I went single entry and main cash. A couple subscribers had real good nights. Buck dropped in the chat. He took down the FD Monster last night. Real great night from him. And of course, it wouldn't be an Awesemo Yahoo fantasy show without mentioning Wolf Girl. It seems like she's taking down winner take alls. Basically every other day. She went 10x last night, took down a couple winner take alls. She had a great night as well. Some good nights for some subscribers. I had a decent night last night. How'd you do, Josh?
Made a horrific swap, but that, the Kings didn't really do anything. So, I probably would have min cashed. I swapped out Nick Suzuki late on the live before lock, and that really hurt because it got me from Montembeau to Vasilevsky. So it was like a 50-point swing, which is massive, but, Kopitar didn't do anything. So, didn't sting as bad later in the night. It let me, calm down and make some golf lineups, which are horrific right now. So, great 24 hours for me.
Yeah, maybe not the best swap to make, but that stuff happens. It's a long season. There are swaps you're going to make that don't work out. There are swaps that you're going to make that do work out. You always remember the ones that really hurt. It seems like whenever, I don't know about you, but whenever I make a swap and it works out, I'm always like, oh, well, I knew it was going to work out. That's why I made that swap. And then, if I make a swap and it doesn't work out, it's like, I'm just on the wrong side of variance. But those things happen all season long. It's nothing to get too hung up about, as long as you're not doing it every single night in the wrong direction. Probably not something to be too worried over if it's just a one-night thing. We have free premium tools and data up on the site for everybody to check out. You don't have to be an Awesemo subscriber. Our NBA player rankings are free for today, and our NHL player rankings are free for today. So whether it's NBA or NHL, that's tickling your fancy for tonight. Both player rankings up for free up on the site. Just check out awesemo.com. Also, I believe Jeff Votts, the fourth man here at on the hockey side of things at Awesemo, has a Power Plays article up on the site. Free to read for anybody to check out. You don't have to be a subscriber to Awesemo to read a lot of the articles that are posted to the site, actually. He talks about the Florida Panthers and Artemi Panarin. Those are some spots that we're going to be talking about a lot in this show. We have a giveaway through our podcast. Head on over to the Awesemo podcast channel. Just leave us a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or your Awesemo username, and you'll be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That is several $100s worth of value just for leaving a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or Awesemo username. Finally, we have a new NBA prop show. It's called Locks Before Lock. We added it every day, I believe Monday through Saturday, where we're doing NBA shows. It'll be on 30 minutes before the deeper dive. So if you want to get some bets or some props in addition to your DFS, just tune in 30 minutes earlier every day, and Locks Before Locks will help you out. All right, Josh, we got a pretty big game for the very first one we got to talk about. This one, 3.3 total for the Minnesota Wild, a 3.0 total, for the Minnesota Wild, a 3.6 total for the Toronto Maple Leafs, a 6.5 total with a 3 total on the road. They're expecting some goals here. The couple big pieces of news. One, Matt Zuccarello expected to be back on the top line for Minnesota. Remember, he was a game time scratch for their last game. He'll be back and on the top line. The rest of the lines, the second line at least, looks to be fine. Jordan Greenway also injured, not going to be playing. Off the third line, Brandon Duhaime's going to take his spot. For Toronto, Andre Kasha, mercifully, the Alex Kerfoot experiment on that Toronto second line is over. I don't know what took so long, but we finally got there. We got Andre Kasha on the second line with John Tavares and William Nylander. Given the totals we have here, there's probably a lot to like on both sides. Josh, what do you like here?
Yeah, so, Zuccarello back is good for the Wild, but they're still not great on the road. Like, Minnesota One's numbers, home road splits are pretty stark. And on top of that, like, the Minnesota top line has kind of fallen off in the past month or so. And you look at this Toronto One ownership, it's reminds me of McDavid from last night. Almost no ownership in a spot that's perceived not great, but if you dig into it, it's a pretty good spot. And anytime you can get low own Matthews, like you can get low own McDavid, I think this is a really, really good spot in GPPs. I mean, Matthews would be my first person I put in cash, but I haven't played cash in a while, but if I was, it would probably he'd be the first click. That being said, I think, Toronto 1 makes a very good GPP play tonight. Yeah, Marner's 8,100, and that's overpriced for Marner. Like, Marner should be mid-sixes for what he does. And that's my biggest beef with him. That and, his contract, but good on his agents for coercing Kyle Dubas and his SpongeBob socks into signing that deal. So, I'm in on Toronto 1 tonight. Like, they're going to get that Hartman-Zuccarello-Kaprizov matchup. And, like I said, their numbers have fallen off recently. Their road numbers are way worse. They, on the road, they produce 1.1 expected goals less than they do at home. So I think this is a very advantageous matchup for Toronto 1. You want to go to your new toys with Toronto 2, I think that's fine as well. It's a tougher matchup, whether they get Gaudreau, Fiala, Boldy, or Foligno, Eriksson, Duhaime, or whatever it is, because Greenway's out. With Greenway out, like Eriksson, Foligno, still a good defensive pair. I mean, that line still has pretty good defensive numbers. It's not the elite checking line that it is with Greenway there, but it's still, that line is in a tougher matchup compared to the top line. So I think for Toronto, I go to the top line here. On the Wild side, you see the Minnesota top line ownership under 1% right now. And that's probably the only reason I would play them in GPPs. If you're MMEing, I think, you're 20 maxing, you play 1 or 2 of 20, you're way over the field. Yeah, their road numbers still aren't great, but, Kaprizov, Zuccarello on the top power play. Leafs still have some blue line issues, some goalie issues. So, I'm not saying go all in on them, but if you're 20 maxing 150, getting, 5 to 10%, you're going to get way over the field. And in GPPs, I think, that's a decent strategy. Now with Kasha on the second line, their numbers cannot be worse than they were with Kerfoot. So I guess mum's the word on Fiala, Gaudreau, Boldy. I like them, but I'd save them for a little bit better matchup. And, you want to one-off Joe Eriksson, that's fine. But really, despite it being a 6.5 over-under in this game, I'm way more on the Toronto side.
Yeah, I want to bring up the Minnesota top line because you and I have been talking about how their numbers, you mentioned it as soon as you started talking, how their defensive numbers really haven't been all that great, especially of late. I looked at their numbers just for the month of February, and they're a 50% line, 2.4 expected goals for, 2.4 expected goals against per 60 minutes. And I looked at their schedule, Winnipeg twice, Chicago, Ottawa, Edmonton, Detroit, that's not a murderer's row of teams here. There's a couple tough games in there, but by and large, they didn't have difficult games. They haven't had difficult games this month, and they're not really playing that well. And that's what really makes me like that Toronto top line here. The Toronto top line has just been one of the best offensive lines in hockey pretty much the entire season. So I know Marner's overpriced. I'm going to talk about stacking that in a second once I finish talking about Toronto 2. Toronto 2 coming in with reasonably high ownership, and the reason for that is because of the price, right? Andre Kasha on that second line is not expensive. William Nylander on that line, also not very expensive. John Tavares is. He's $7K. I think that's fine if you're power play stacking, and that's what I want to talk about here, is power play stacking. The Toronto penalty kill has generally been excellent this year. And the Minnesota penalty kill, it's been good, but not elite. And they tend to take a lot of penalties. So if you don't want to pay 8,100 for Marner, I think you can drop down and double center Matthews Tavares, or go Matthews plus Nylander, or, add in Morgan Riley, something like that. If you don't want to pay 8,100 for Mitch Marner, I think there are different ways to get there, especially with this being a somewhat advantageous power play matchup, especially when you're considering all the shorthanded time that Minnesota spends in the penalty box. Another thing that's bothering me about Minnesota is they're really starting to spread out the ice time. The third line is playing, or sorry, the top line is playing a little bit less, like 18 to 19 minutes, but those minutes aren't necessarily just going to the second line. Like they're spreading it out. So it's like, their first line's at like 18, their second line's at like 16, and their third line's at like 15. Like it's really spreading out the ice time. And I don't think like that doesn't make for a really great fantasy spot. I don't think, certainly not one where I'd want to go and pay 8,200 for Kirill Kaprizov. I get that they're coming in with incredibly low ownership in a 3 total. So if you're 150 maxing, yeah, go ahead and get your 5 Minnesota 1 lineups in or something like that. I think that's fine. But as far as, heavy stacking a main stack tonight, it's Toronto 1 or Toronto power play, something like that. Don't mind Minnesota 2 on the other side. I think Toronto's second and third lines can probably still give it up defensively. Kasha probably makes it a little bit better, but I think Minnesota 2 is fine more as like a filler type stack, even though Boldy and Fiala are Boldy especially starting to be a little bit expensive. On the blue line, Justin Hall is out again for Toronto. Ilya Lubushkin on the second pair. He's a favorite of mine, but I think I'd still probably rather play Rasmus Sandin at 2,500. On the Minnesota side, Jonas Brodin, he typically doesn't have great peripherals, but they're not that bad this year, considering what he typically does. Like he's actually at like 1.8 shots and plus blocks per game. So I think that's fine for 4K. Obviously Spurgeon, if you want to correlate on the power play, something like that. Any other defensemen stick out?
Not really. I mean, outside of correlating, the Leafs, all their guys are min price except for Brody, who's 2,800. So I don't know if you need to go out of your way to, force in a Leafs blue liner tonight. There's plenty of other cheap options that I like better. But, if I push comes to shove, I had to, it'd be Sandin.
Yeah, I don't mind Sandin either. All right, let's get to this next game. Columbus, 2.6 implied goal total going into Florida. The Florida Panthers have a 4.4 implied goal total. I think that's the highest we've seen on the season. It's pretty close, if not. I know we've had some 4.3s. I think 4.4 is the highest. Zach Werenski out for Columbus. You were saying in chat, sorry, that, Werenski out is a significant hit to the defense, right? There are only a couple real good puck movers on that blue line, and he's one of them. It probably means more minutes for Adam Bachvest, power play and all that, but I think it just weakens the team offensively a fair bit, considering who they don't have to move the puck. But it's still a 2.6 total. There's not a lot of super expensive players on the Columbus side. Probably going to be a lot of interest on the Florida side. What do you like here, Josh?
Yeah, Voracek didn't skate this morning either, so the lines could be up in the air, I think, which is another issue. But that being said, I don't have much interest in the Blue Jackets tonight. Like, without Werenski, they're relying on Bachwest to move the puck, and I doubt they're going to give him Werenski minutes tonight. Since Florida is a very, very high shot volume team, I would imagine Gavrikov and Peak are going to see big minutes trying to, just lay in front of Berube and, take some lumps, take some rubber and, block some shots. So I don't know. I heard some people talking about how they're interested in Columbus one tonight. I mean, if you want to play them in MME, I think that's fine. 1 to 3, I probably won't get there. They're similar to like Winnipeg 1. If you have like the flow chart, if this is a bad matchup, you play. Like, I don't know. Like Line A seems to he's found his offensive touch, but his defensive numbers are just atrocious. And they're going to get Barkov or Hagee, which is a very good two-way pair. So like, I just don't have much interest in the Columbus top line. That second line has ridiculously good numbers. That third line's not a layup. So like, there just isn't anything on Columbus that I'd want a full stack. If you want a one-off Line A because you think he continues his point streak, then sure. But for 6,200, I'd rather, not. There's other players in that price range that I'd rather play. Like, I'd rather spend $1,100 less to play Anthony Duclair than Patrick Laine tonight. Like, it's just what it is for me. So if you want to get to some Columbus 1 or Columbus 2 in MME, as a filler, and you have a little bit, that's fine. But in 1 to 3, I'm out on Columbus. On the Florida side, I like pretty much anything on the top three lines here. I'm not a huge fan of Maxime Mammon. He just is a guy who just takes up space. He only plays like 13 minutes. But like there's a good blowout potential here. So chances are, the first, second, and third line sees some fairly even minutes. I doubt you'll see like Barkov getting like 22 minutes tonight. So with that being the case, I'd rather go to a line with, power play correlation and, I'd rather go to that second line here tonight. Huberdeau, Duclair, Bennett. I know Bennett isn't on the top power play, but he's, last game he came back, he was 5K, had a goal, 6 shots on goal. So he's shooting the puck at even. So, he's only up to 5,200 tonight. Duclair's 5,100. Huberdeau 7,200 is fine price for him. Like, there's no someone asked me the question today, would you rather play Marner or Huberdeau? And it's an easy answer, Huberdeau. Like if Marner was under 7K, then it'd be a discussion. But I'd much rather play Huberdeau. They're not saying like they're the same player, but they have similar styles. Like they're kind of like assist first before goals. So 4-2 for me. You want to go down to 4-3. I think Reinhardt's a good one off. You want to, two-man him with Lundell. I don't think you need a full stack. Mason Marchment at 4,500 is a bit pricey. So I'm fine with a Reinhardt one off. You want to add in Reinhardt with a power play stack. I think that's fine. So 4-2, 4-3, 4-1, like they're all in play for me. 4-2 is my favorite out on Columbus.
Yeah. I really do like Florida 3 as a line. They're a good line. And don't get me wrong. For me, it's just that they're running incredibly hot, right? Like I was looking at Mason Marchment's numbers actually right before we came on the air. The team's shooting 18% with him on the ice, and he's skating like 13, 14 minutes a night. He's over a point per game player skating 13 minutes a night. Like that's like it is
unsustainable.
Yeah, how hot they're running. That's my only concern is like they're going to hit a cold spell, and it's going to be a brutal one eventually. Like this team's high scoring enough that it won't be as bad as maybe some other spots, but they are going to hit a decline. So, when does it happen? Is it going to happen in a game where they have a 4.4 total and they could end up playing 15, 16 minutes because they're not playing Barkov all those minutes? I don't know. That's what worries me here. I will say I'm mostly in on Florida power play stacking here. Like, I think there's two ways that I'm going to handle this game. It's either play Florida 3 or play a Florida power play stack. Like I'm not stacking the top line with Max Mammon. And I get stacking the second line. It's just I want to get Alexander Barkov in because like this Columbus penalty kill hasn't really been that great. I mean, middle of the league, I guess is fine, but near top 10 by time shorthanded. And this Florida power play at times this year has been, amongst the 2 or 3 best in the league. So, if I think this is a case where like Toronto, you can double center stack. You can put Bennett and Barkov in your tournament lineups and then throw in Huberdeau or something like that. Or just go Barkov, Huberdeau, and Ekblad, or Barkov, Huberdeau, Duclair, or, something like that. That's about where I am with Florida. On the Columbus side, I want to play Columbus here. I really, really do. I think if anything, I would probably drop down to the second line. And the reason is this. The Florida second line, for as good as they are offensively, and they are dynamic offensively. They give up a lot defensively at the other end. Their last 100 minutes have them at 3.6 expected goals against per 60 minutes. That is just crazy high. Now, their expected goals for is actually much higher than that, which is what makes them such a good offensive line. But they are not that great defensively. And I think, at least like a one-off Oliver Bjorkstrand in some tournament lineups here makes a lot of sense tonight. Add in Cole Sillinger if you need a center or something like that. I think that Columbus second line would probably be my target over the Columbus top line. But I do like Florida third line. I don't mind them, but it's Florida power play stacking that I really like in that game. On the blue line, like Mackenzie Weegar is still very reasonably priced. The Forsling Goodass duo on the second pair still very reasonable. But it's Adam Bokvist, obviously, over on Columbus that we should mention. Like Gavrikov and Peak are probably going to play a lot of minutes, and those guys are definitely shot block bonus threats. I think Adam Bokvist, I think he's a very underrated puck mover. He's not Zach Werenski, but he's good and he's cheap. What do you like for defenseman here?
Yeah, I like Bokvist. Man, that Seth Jones trade is just brutal for the Hawks, but that's for another time. Yeah, I like Bokvist tonight. if you're not punting, if you don't need shot blocks with Gavrikov and Peak, you want some offense for cheap. I think Bachwist is your guy. On Florida, if you can get up to Ekblad, I think he's an excellent play tonight. If you can't, Uyghur is fine. You want to punt Gustav Forsling or the good ass, or even Montour are in play for me.
Yeah, I see Chris Galch in chat saying never playing Chikrin in Arizona in a 10 p.m. lock ever again. Fewer minutes than Strawman and Gostisbehere. I'll just say everybody always regrets playing Arizona. We regret playing Arizona almost every time we play Arizona.
Except for Josh Anderson. That dude is a masochist, and he will go back and go back and go back and go back, and he'll be like, tonight's the night, tonight's the night. I'll be 3,900 years old before they're optimal.
I'm pretty sure he's won with them, and that's the problem is that he gets away with it sometimes. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, top stacks, lineup builder, and a whole lot more. Of course, if you're only looking to play NHL DFS, then you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NHL packages for as low as $3.95 a week. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and can be easily added on to these packages at checkout, but it is not included in our base packages. However, it is a very valuable addition to your DFS arsenal for those looking to multi-enter contests. So stop guessing and start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. All right. Your boys are back on the slate, Josh. We have the New York Rangers at home with a 3.1 implied goal total. The Washington Capitals are in town with a 2.8 implied goal total. Washington is getting TJ Oshie back, but he's going to be lining up on the third line. But he will be on the top power play unit, booting Tom Wilson to the second power play unit. It looks like they move Connor Sheary, or left Connor Sheary, on the top line as well, leaving Tom Wilson down on the second line with Nicholas Backstrom. We're expecting Shesterkin against Samsonov, but I haven't seen goalie confirmations just yet. Who do you got here, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, is there a worse 5-on-5 matchup than these two teams? Like, nope. It's just brutal. Yep. Maybe throw in the Stars, but like,
I was about to say, give me a Rangers Stars game, and then maybe we'll talk.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, if you have insomnia, turn on this game. It'll put you right to sleep. But like, I don't think I'm going to full stack anything on either side. I think there's some interesting one-offs in this game. Like, the Capitals have a good power play. The Rangers have a good power play. The Rangers' penalty kill has not been good. Their saving grace is their goalie. Like, Shesterkin's save percentage on the penalty kill is just ridiculous. So I think, Ovechkin, he's coming in at 3%, is a good one-off. TJ Oshie, 2,700 on the top power play. He's a good one-off. You want to pair them together, that's fine. Like, I don't know if I play Evgeny Kuznetsov. Like, yeah, he's down to 5,600. He just hasn't been doing much. But it does make some sense because they play 5-on-5 together. So if you want to go like Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, I think that's fine. Or like Ovechkin, Backstrom, or Backstrom, Oshie, Ovechkin. But like, I don't like power play stacking against the Rangers over 3 even strength lines. Just, not really my thing. So I'll probably just stick to one-offing an Ovechkin or one-offing an Oshie, or, Oshie has a pretty good 5-on-5 matchup too. Like, the Rangers' third line is just bad defensively. So 2,700 top power play and a good, decent 5-on-5 matchup. I think, Oshie is probably the guy outside of Ovechkin at low ownership. Like, yeah, Matthews is coming in low, but like Ovechkin's coming in way lower. And that just makes me nervous. Like, Stars at low ownership on medium-sized slates, they just have the potential to just absolutely just destroy a slate. That being said, like, it's Igor. If you look at any of the sports books, he is the heavy favorite for the Vezina for good reason. He has like a 940 save percentage off the penalty kill, which is insane. But listen, the Rangers penalty kill is not great. So I'm good with some one-offs on the Capital side. On the Rangers side, it's similar stuff. Like, the problem is, like, the Capitals are good defensively. Their penalty kill is pretty good. Their issue is goalie. It's like an opposite of the Rangers kind of deal. Like, the Rangers have the goalie. Like, if Igor is on the Capitals, like, forget about it. Like, no one would ever score against them. So So I'm fine with like a Kreider one-off or Zibanejad Kreider. I think my favorite one-off on the Rangers would be Panarin, just because he's under 6K. He does his best work on the power play. You want to pair him with Strome, that's fine. I'm not outright stacking the top line of Lafreniere or the second line of Dryden Hunt. So I think you can go Strome, Panarin, or Kreider, Zibanejad. But full stacking in this game, not my thing.
I want to talk about the Rangers first because I think this is a reasonable power play spot for them. Like, we talk about often how good the Rangers penalty kill is. The Rangers power play since Christmas, the top power play unit, 11.6 expected goals for per 60 minutes, which is like a good power play is at like 8, and they're at 11.6. Like they're honestly about 40% higher than what would be considered a good power play. They are scoring 18.3 goals per 60 minutes on the power play. And Washington's penalty kill honestly isn't that great. Over the last 6 weeks, their expected goals against numbers on the PK have them worse than the Chicago Blackhawks, the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Montreal Canadiens. Their actual goals against in that span worse than Vancouver, just ahead of Buffalo. Like, this penalty kill has not been good and has not been good for a long time. Now they are getting healthy, and maybe getting some of the healthy bodies back will help in this regard. But it just takes one game of the Rangers power play being the elite power play that has been most of this season for these guys to really go off. So, I like Kreider here tonight. I like Zibanejad here tonight. The ownership is like, it's a little high, I think, for this matchup, coming in between 9 and 10%, but it's not extreme. You know what I mean? Like, if Chris Kreider comes in at 9% tonight on an 8-game slate, I'm not going to lose my mind over that. That seems just perfectly reasonable to me. So, I don't think you have to put in Lafreniere. You can, because he's 2,500. He's super cheap, and it'll lower the average cost of that line. But Kreider and Zibanejad, especially throw in some Adam Fox on the blue line if you want. Making it a bigger power play stack by adding somebody like Artemi Panarin, I think makes sense. That's how I would attack the New York Rangers here tonight. Is I would probably focus more on the power play guys than anything else. On the Washington side, like, I kind of agree with you, because it's the pricing that is just too cheap, especially TJ Oshie. That DK algorithm, the injury algorithm has him coming in at $2,700 here today, which is just crazy for a guy that can be a 30-goal scorer and is on the top power play unit for Washington. So, yeah, I do like him as a one-off. The Washington top line, not really that great with Connor Sheary there. I'd rather Tom Wilson. Their numbers are better with Wilson than with Sheary. So that's another reason why I'm not super high on Washington. But again, they're coming in with low ownership. So at the very least, a one-off Alex Ovechkin has to be in consideration. I'd say even one-off John Carlson. So let's talk about those defensemen. I think John Carlson makes for a fine one-off here tonight. If you're worried about, Shesterkin keeping Washington to 2 or 3 goals, then, I wouldn't go stacking Kuznetsov and Backstrom and all these guys. I would probably focus on one-offs, John Carlson being among them. But honestly, I don't think this is a game where I'm going to be looking for defensemen outside of correlating some stacks. What do you think?
Yeah, Carlson or Fox for me. If you want a one-off Trouba, that's fine. But outside of that, like, I'm looking elsewhere. Just a wasteland.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, let's get to this next game. New Jersey, 2.4 implied goal total going into Pittsburgh. The Penguins have a 4.0 implied goal total. This is there's Dougie Hamilton's first game back is this game. He is expected to be back running the second power play unit. They're not going to have him on the top power play unit just yet. But Dougie Hamilton expected to be back. Very reasonable, at least over on DraftKings at 5K. But this is New Jersey's first game in 9 days. You and I have talked a lot about over the All-Star break about teams not necessarily looking great coming out of the long rest. And even though Tampa won over Edmonton, they didn't really look that great. They only put up like 23 shots or something like that against the Oilers. It was, the Oilers started Mike Smith, which, come on. But anyways, like, the Devils having that long of a layoff, but they do get Dougie Hamilton back. I'm wondering, they get Jesper Bratt back, which is also a big addition to that forward group. I'm wondering, how do you think this line matching breaks out? Because whoever gets the Sidney Crosby matchup is probably a line that I don't want to use, but whoever doesn't get that matchup might be a little bit of interest to me. What do you think here, Josh?
I'm going back and forth this because it doesn't make, like, I was annoyed that they broke up Bratt and Hughes.
Yes.
It doesn't really make sense because they have excellent numbers together.
Yes.
Like Zacha, Hischier, Bratt, they have pretty good numbers together, but Hughes and Bratt together were dynamite. I would imagine that Crosby gets Jack Hughes. It's just my guess. Like, you're going to put your best center out against their best center, and that's definitely Jack Hughes. That being said, like, yeah, like the Malkin matchup is way better for the Devils, but like, let's be honest, the Pitt 1 has been pretty leaky defensively themselves. That being said, like, this is the first game in 9 days for the Devils. John Gillies in net. How do you not play Pitt 1 here? They are the most expensive on DraftKings, and they're coming in with very good positive leverage for our top stacks tool as well. So like, and they take a lot, and the Devils take a lot of penalties. So like, Pitt 1's probably in the best spot of the night, which is crazy because the Florida Panthers have a 4.4 total. So like, I'm very much in on Pitt 1 here. I'm out on Pitt 2 just because their ownership, like if you want to add Malkin in for a power play stack, that's fine. But like Heinen, Malkin, Carter, like I just, for 12% ownership and the top line coming in 14, I'd rather just, the extra 2% to get to the top line. Like, I'd rather just, it's not like a massive disparity. It's not like the top line's coming in 25%, second line's coming in at like 6%, and then you can get like way lower ownership in a high total, high ownership game. So Pitt 1 for me. If Zacha, Hischier, Bratt does get the Malkin matchup, I am interested in them because first of all, they're very cheap and they have a decent sample together. That being said, first game in 9 days, not going to prioritize them in 1 to 3, but I think they make for a very interesting filler in MME.
Yeah, I do have a lot of interest in that New Jersey second line, Zacha, Hischier, Bratt, because I agree with you. I think the Penguins are going to run out Crosby against the Hughes line. That is just it's just an earnest guess on our part. Like, we don't have any data to go off with these two playing each other this year because there's only been one game in Pittsburgh and Hughes was hurt earlier in the season. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen. I agree with you. I think it's going to be Crosby against Hughes. Now, if you look at the Hischier line with Bratt there, 60 shot attempts generated per 60 minutes, 34 scoring chances generated per 60 minutes, controlling 54% of the scoring chances. They're a pretty good line together. What's kind of drawing me there is the ownership, right? We're looking at 1 to 2% ownership on that New Jersey line. And that feels very reasonable to me on a slate this size. If you look at their top stacks, they're coming in 2% ownership, 1.1% top stacks. I think that's just fine as a filler. You don't have to use all three. You can just, do a two-man of Hischier and Bratt if you want to get some power play exposure. But, Penguins do have a very good penalty kill. I will say I'm 3-maxing here tonight. I'm not playing New Jersey, like, flat out. I'm just not. If I was 20-maxing, at the very least, that second line would be in consideration for me. I'm not saying you have to play them, but you probably should consider them going into that Malkin, Carter second line, considering how good they've generally been this year. But honestly, I'm not super high on that team in general. It's just been too long of a layoff. And this, going into Crosby, that one line is out of play for me. The Penguins have a very good penalty kill. Just not some, Dougie Hamilton's on the second power play unit. Like, it's just not something I'm running out to play just yet. I think I'll wait for New Jersey to get their legs under them. Somebody wants to take the opposite side of that. You're more than welcome to play them tonight in DFS. Again, I'm not going to get there. My 3 maxes. I think you should probably get to 20 lineups before they're really considered. I love Pittsburgh 1 here tonight. I'm absolutely going to have at least one lineup with Pittsburgh 1. Not sure how much more than that, but at least 1 out of my 3 will be Pittsburgh 1. Pittsburgh 2, Malkin and Carter do have good offensive numbers together this year. 3.3 expected goals per 60 minutes, but also 3.0 expected goals against, like they're giving it up at the other end. So, it's kind of like the line that we talked about earlier, the slate in Florida 2, where Florida 2 generates a lot, but they also give it up. Pittsburgh 2 is the exact same way. That's kind of why I like New Jersey 2. But it also makes that Pittsburgh second line a good matchup. On the blue line, again, Dougie Hamilton, 5K. Like, I want to get your opinion on what to do here, because he's probably a $7,000 to $7,500 defenseman, assuming he's getting top power play minutes. But like with the power play matchup here, it wouldn't be that big of a difference for me anyway. What do you think about Dougie Hamilton at 5K? What do we have to do with him here?
I don't know. That's a tricky question. Like, if you want to play him. I just, this is his first game back in a while. This is the team's first game back in a while. He's not on the top power play, but it's not a huge deal. He's still on the top pair, probably get, 20 minutes, unless they're trying to ease him back and they give him like 17, 18. But maybe that's why he's priced down. That's probably not why he's priced down. The algorithm, they just blindfold and throw darts at a board. But I think at 5K, you can take that risk in GPPs.
Yep. No complaints here. We have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NHL season to bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link below, deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you paid in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. If you'd like to speed up the process of getting access, email support@awesemo.com. We'll get you set up right away. You can also claim a free $10 of site credit by clicking the link in the video description below, and that can be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including tonight's $5,000 NHL Baller. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. All right, Josh, let's get to our next game. Dallas, 2.5 implied goal total going into Nashville. The Preds have a 3.0 implied goal total. This is a back-to-back for Dallas. They went to overtime last night with Winnipeg. This is also the Pekka Rinne jersey retirement ceremony for Nashville here tonight. That is going to start at 7 o'clock Eastern, with, I believe, the game starting at 8 o'clock Eastern. Those guys are going to be standing around for a little while, but I don't have any data on jersey retirement games. So what do you think about this game, Josh? Because there's two top lines here that you and I have been playing all season long. Not necessarily our favorite game or spot for them, but we do have to consider them.
I think it's a sneaky GPP spot. Dallas back-to-back on the road. They're flying from Winnipeg to Nashville. That's not a short flight. It's not a super long flight either. If my geography of Canada is correct, Winnipeg is north of Minnesota. So not a super long flight. That being said, like there are a lot of older players on Dallas. So maybe they might have some tired legs here. It's hard to, really know for sure, but it does give me a little bit of interest in Nashville one here. I know they haven't been great as of late, but they are fully correlated. They keep getting cheaper. So I think in GPPs, Nashville 1 is in play for me. 1 to 3, I'll consider them. I don't know if they'll make it. But, I do have interest in them tonight. Same on the Dallas side. Like, they're coming in under 1%, and they've been an unbelievable line. Like, they haven't been doing much the past 3 games. They burned a lot of people, but I think, anytime you can get a line like that fully correlated against a very poor penalty kill in Nashville, I think you have to get some in MME here. It doesn't take much to get over the field. Like, if Nashville gives them 4 or 5 power play opportunities and they score on 2, Dallas 1 right in the mix there. So I think in 20 to 150 max, I would definitely be over the field on Dallas 1. I'm in on Nashville 1, possibly in 1 to 3. That second line, some older players there on Dallas. I think, the second line of Nashville's not great, but don't mind a 2-man of Cunnin and Tomasino, or Johansson and Cunnin. Like, if you want to get a really cheap 2-man for power play stacking, I think it's okay. So while there probably isn't much I'm going to get to 1 to 3, I think this has some very good MME options.
Yeah, there is a lot of good options here. And the one thing I want to bring up is a little bit of the line matching. What I noticed was Nashville has been using the Colton Sissons, Tanner Jeannot, and Yakov Trenin line Not all the time as a shutdown line. They're still using their top line in that role a fair bit, but they are using that third line in a shutdown role a fair bit. And they've been a good line so far this year. Like, not great, but, 53% shot share. They're generating 12 high danger scoring chances per 60 minutes to only 9 against. They don't seem like that bad of a line to me. And if they're going to get some shutdown minutes, I assume they're going to get a little bit more ice time. Like, I'm looking over Jeannot's ice time of late, 15 and a half, 17, 19 in his last 3 games. Like, I'm not saying I'm not going out and slamming in Nashville 3 as a stack here tonight, but I think one-offing, even Jeannot, or if you need a center in Citizens, I think, you can definitely get there. They might have some more ice time in store for those guys. Nashville 1 they've been fine, but they've been really running hot by shooting percentages, and that's the thing that worries me. I will say Philip Forsberg has been shooting a lot more, so I think, if you don't want to full stack the line, I think Forsberg is fine. He's at 3.5 shots per game over his last 10, if I'm not mistaken. So, the thing is that they play that line a ton. Michael Granlund's at like nearly 22 minutes a game over his last 10 games or something like that. It's just crazy how much ice time they play. And it is the back-to-back against Dallas. Like, I think Nashville 1 is fine. In your 1 to 3s, in your 20 maxes, I think they definitely have to be at least considered. They are in consideration for me. They're probably in that, Florida 2 bucket, where I have to decide, which matchup and which ownership I like better, which I want to go after more. So we'll see what happens there. But I do like Nashville 1. Maybe, a one-off or some pieces from Nashville 3. The Dallas second line, or the Dallas top line, obviously very much in play. And with their ownership, like, you don't need a lot to get there. 10 lineups and 150 max is just fine. So I do like Dallas 1. That's it for me from the Stars side. On the Nashville side, I think the top line is fine, but I think the third line kind of makes it as a nice filler here. So that's where I'm at on this game. On the blue line, I think this is another game where Miro Heiskanen makes sense. If the Dallas offense doesn't get going, he's a guy that can actually do it all by himself, relatively cheap. Lots of power play time, hopefully on the second unit. What do you like here for defensemen?
I like Heiskanen or Lindell. Lindell's 3,400 now. His price keeps coming down. I think, at that price, he's playable. On Nashville, it's pretty much Yossi or Hasta La Vista.
Yep, I agree with that. All right, let's get to this next game. Calgary 3.1 implied goal total going into Vancouver. The Vancouver Canucks have a 2.5 implied goal total. Listen, I've stopped thinking that I'm smarter than Vegas a long, long time ago. I understand that they have way more data and way more information and are way smarter at aggregating than I'll ever be. I don't get this 3.1 total for Calgary. This is the number 2 scoring team in the league over the last 7 weeks. And Vancouver is like mid-pack at best by every single defensive metric. I don't know. Maybe Calgary's starting to run out of steam. Like, they've won 10 in a row. Maybe there's some pressure building on them. Vancouver has improved defensively since Bruce Boudreau took over. They're not great, but have improved. So maybe there's something to it. But, that top line and the second line have just been dynamite for weeks now. Maybe they're just expecting some shooting percentage regression or something. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I'm not sure this is the game to regress. Like, Bo Horvat, Brock Besser are going to go out against Calgary 1, and they have Horvat and Besser have an almost 300-minute sample together. They're giving up almost 3 expected goals per 60 in that sample. That's not a small sample. That's a large sample. And you're going to tell me they're going to stop Calgary 1 tonight? You think Jason Dickinson is going to, improve those numbers? No. So, like, Calgary 1 coming in at 2%, a little bit under 2% projected right now. It's hard not to go back to them tonight. They're fully correlated. Vancouver, not a great penalty kill either. So it's one of these situations where I feel like I'm missing something, and I can't put my finger on it.
And you know what that usually leads to for me? A bagel by the end of the night. Yeah, exactly.
So, like, I'm in on Calgary one here. Like they're in consideration in my one lineup here. They're coming in at 2%. Like, sure. You want to go to that second line? They're higher owned, which is fine because a lot of people like to use them as fillers because they've been excellent. I also like Tyler Toffoli as a one-off here just because he's on the top power play unit now instead of Monahan. He's 3,700. Probably going to see, I don't know who he's going to see even strength, either Pettersson or Miller, but neither of them like at 5-on-5 scare me. Like I think the Lucic, Monahan, Toffoli line is a fine third line. Like I think it's fine. Like one-offing Toffoli at 3,700 top power play, perfectly fine. My favorite spot in this game is Calgary 1, though. On the Vancouver side, they're just no good matchups for this Vancouver team. I don't know if I'd full stack anything. Like, I don't even know, if I want to play anything. Like, I don't know. There just isn't much there. Like, if they were cheaper, like, maybe, but they're in, Miller's 5,500. Horvat's almost 5K. He was like mid threes not too long ago. Besser's over 5K. So like maybe an MME have a little bit of some of these guys, but like I just don't see how they get to 2.5 goals here.
Yeah, and they're not even coming in with good leverage by our top stacks tool. They're all coming in over leveraged. It's not like we're getting a huge ownership savings here. So yeah, I agree. There's just nothing I like for stacking on the Vancouver side. I'm sure somebody else will stack them and we'll get there tonight. And I'll be proud of you if you do it. It's just by my numbers. And by the way, I'm making my lineups. I'm just out on Vancouver. On the Calgary side, both top lines for me. Love the Calgary top line. Like if you don't want to play a super expensive Pitt 1 here tonight, like the Calgary top line is 2K cheaper on DraftKings. And that's not nothing. I think they're a perfect pivot to get away from what might be a much higher owned and more expensive Pittsburgh 1 line here tonight. I also love Calgary too. 72% of the scoring chances. They're generating 45 scoring chances per 60 minutes. That's a borderline power play. Like I'm with you, and I don't see a line that can stop them. So I'm fine with both top 6 lines here from Calgary. On the blue line, not really a whole lot that sticks out to me on either side. Rasmus Anderson, if you want to correlate with the power play. I guess Chris Tanev, still under 3K, is just fine for the Flames. Probably nobody from Vancouver. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, if you want to correlate Anderson. Otherwise, Hanifin and Shillington are okay. Tanev is probably the guy I'd go to under at 2,900. Travis Hamonic would probably be the only guy on Vancouver. I know he's like down on the third pair, but he has the periffs right now, so he'll box some shots tonight, I would imagine.
Yeah, let's hope he does. Love Calgary, chat. Love Calgary 1 and 2, but I do wonder if that win streak is going to end soon. That's kind of what concerns me too. Is like maybe there's a little bit of pressure getting to them or something like that. But fingers crossed, Calgary, do your thing tonight. Please be the Flames, don't be the Flams. Here at Awesemo, we love to celebrate our winners, and we do that through the Awesemo Hall of Fame. And if you'd like to get in the Awesemo Hall of Fame, this is how you do it. You download the Awesemo avatar from awesemo.com/avatar. You've placed in the top 3 of any contest with at least 5,000 contestants, and then you tweak those wins to the Awesemo Hoff account. Now, unfortunately, most of the screenshots that we get for NHL are sent in through our Discord or sent to us directly through Twitter. So you're going to see a lot of the NBA guys. Jordan Klein, especially our producer, finished 3rd in the NBA All-Star Game 10K mid-range jumper single entry. Congrats to you, Jordan. Timothy Beachler, we've seen him a lot, finishing 3rd in the NASCAR Mini Max this past Sunday. Hockey Cards Plus, doing some work on NHL, finishing 2nd in the 1.2K from Sunday a week ago, I believe. CJ Beast taking down $7,000 in golf, last weekend's golf. And of course, we finish with EMAC, one of our colleagues here, EMAC 2024, taking down a tie for first place in the Super Bowl baller. And again, shout out to Wolf Girl and Buck on their wins in NHL last night. If you'd like to get in the Awesemo Hall of Fame, just tweet your wins to the Awesemo Hoff account. Just make sure it's a contest with at least 5,000 contestants and you have the Awesemo avatar as your avatar. All right, Josh, a couple more games to get through. Let's get through this first one. Boston, 3.5 implied goal total. They're going into Seattle. The Kraken have a 2.4 implied goal total. Jared McCann and Yanni Gourde both not on the ice for the Kraken at morning skate today. That's pretty bad for the Kraken because they have like 4 good forwards and 2 of them look like they may be out tonight. If you include Jaden Schwartz, who's missed like the last 2 months, like no McCann, no Gourde, no Schwartz would essentially take that top line out of the lineup for this team. And this is not a team with the depth to lose the top line. Brad Marchand back for Boston. He's going to be on the top line with Patrice Bergeron and Jake DeBrusk. They're putting Hall, Holla, and Pasternak back together as their second line. All right, Josh. I don't think we're playing any Kraken here tonight. What do you like in this game?
Yeah, McCann's for sure out. They placed him on IR, I think. And Gourde's a game time decision. That being said, I'm out on the Kraken. I'm in on Boston 1. I'm in on Boston 2. I'm in on Boston power play stacks. I'm in on Boston. I just don't like these even strength lines. Like, you want to put Jake DeBrusk up. Like, Jake DeBrusk is min price. So if you want to play him with Boston 1, that definitely helps. They are just putting him up there because they want to trade him. And they hope he does some stuff tonight. And he might, not a very good defensive sound player, but that doesn't really matter tonight. He has some offensive upside, so I think you can full stack Boston 1 here. You want to leave him off and add in the Taylor Hall, or just go old Boston 1. I think that's fine. I think Boston 2 is fine. You can leave off Hall if you want. But I definitely want, one of the top 2 lines here or a power play stack.
Yeah, I agree with probably the top line. I think, here's the thing with Boston 2, Hall, Pasternak, is they weren't really great together. You know what I mean? 55 shot attempts generated per 60 minutes, 25 scoring chances generated per 60 minutes. That's basically average. That's not really that great. It is Seattle. Seattle makes any team look good. It's just, I don't know if that Boston line is necessarily has the finishing to really justify paying $17,000 for them if you include Eric Holla. I'd rather honestly just go to the top line. So Bergeron, Marchand, DeBrusk, I think is the best matchup for them in this game. If Yanni Gourde plays, they're going to get some sort of Gourde Appleton shutdown line. They've just been awful all year long. So not really concerned about that. Boston 1 for me is what I like in that game. On the blue line, not really a whole lot sticking out. What do you think, Josh?
Want to correlate McAvoy, that's fine. Other than that, Jamie Alexiak, top pair min price, is going to be busy blocking shots maybe, but, I'm contractually obligated to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Giordano might be able to get there, but that predicates Seattle probably getting a couple goals, and I don't really want to rely on that. Coming up a little bit later, as I talked about earlier, we have a bunch of NBA coming up. No House Advantage NBA Strategy Show is coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern with Aton and Terry, and the Locks Before Lock Odd Shopper NBA Prop Show coming up with Eric and Savoca right before the NBA double dose of the Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock. So 4 more NBA shows coming up later today. Make sure you stick around for that. Just want to give a quick shout out to Yahoo. Thank you for being such a good sponsor to us. Be sure to check out Yahoo's deal if you're a first-time DFS user in the description below. All right, final game. New York Islanders 2.9 goal total. Going into San Jose, the Sharks have a 2.6 implied goal total. Morning skate going on for the Islanders right now. They're saying Oliver Wahlstrom is going to be back in the lineup and on the third line, taking Josh Bailey out. Looks like Josh Bailey is going to be straight healthy scratched here tonight. They're putting Wahlstrom in a spot on the third line. The rest of the lines are going to stay the same. Third line of Pajot, Anders Lee, Oliver Wahlstrom. That looks kind of interesting. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I agree. It seems like a pretty good line, and the Sharks' depth is pretty bad. So I'm in on Islanders 3. I'm in on Islanders 2 as well if you want to play Nelson Beauvillier. I think, the Couture-Dahlen-Dzingel matchup is pretty good for them too. Top line going into Hertl-Meyer is not great. They have been very high event. They've been producing a good amount. You shared with me the Barzell Palmieri sample together, they've generated a ton and they give up a ton. So like, I'm in on Sharks 1 for sure. I'm not alone. They're very high owned tonight. Very negative leverage in their top stacks tool. If you want to use them, it's still fine. Just be aware of what you're doing. So for me, Islanders 3, maybe a little bit Islanders 2. I'm in on Sharks 1 for sure. You want to one-off, Jonathan Dahlian, min price in the top 6, pairing with Couture. I think that's an interesting option, but Sharks 1 is where I'm at on the Sharks side.
Yeah. Sharks 1 is the thing with Sharks 1 is it's an ownership thing for me. Coming in incredibly high ownership, 18 to 19% on an 8-game slate. The Islanders it's not a great matchup. The Islanders are the lowest shorthanded team by far in the NHL. And they have a very good penalty kill. I get Timo Meier, cash and all that. Going to get a lot of ice time, very reasonable prices on the rest of the guys. I just think with the ownership in the matchup, I don't want to play 19 or 20% San Jose top line. So in my 1 to 3s, I'm probably going to stay out. I understand playing them. It's just for me, it's just an ownership thing. On the Islanders side, as you mentioned, Barzal and Palmieri, very, very high pace. Not going to work too much in their favor. San Jose could run them over, but on the flip side, they do generate a lot, 34 scoring chances, 73 shot attempts per 60 minutes. I think they're just fine to use here tonight. So I do like the Islanders top line. If you want to dig down to the Islanders third line and get a low owned Oliver Wahlstrom, I think that's okay, but it's top line for the Islanders, top line for the Sharks. On the blue line, not really. I think the only 2 guys I'm really considering are going cheap, like Jacob Middleton, Scott Mayfield, those types of guys. What do you think?
Yeah, I like Mayfield. I like Middleton. You kind of look like, I hate referencing game logs, but if you look at Brent Burns' game logs, he's very involved in Sharks wins and not involved at all at Sharks losses. So if you're going to play Sharks, pairing with Burns makes sense. They're either all going to be involved or they're not. You know what I mean? So I'm fine with Burns at 5,500. But I do agree Middleton or Ferraro. Middleton min price is more interesting to me than Mario Ferraro, and then Mayfield and Pellick are fine.
Yep, I agree with that. All right, we got to get out of here. We kept Tyler a little bit longer than we normally do. Josh, I'm going to ask you for your hat trick picks and your goalies. My hat trick pick for today, Andrew Mangiapane. My goalies, don't mind Shesterkin at home. Thatcher Demko as well. And I'll take Ilya Sorokin on the road for the Islanders, cheap price against that heavy Sharks ownership. Who do you like?
Throw in Markstrom, Saros. Let's see. Let's find a spend down option here. I don't know if there is one. Yeah, I guess Sorokin would be the spend down option here. The Sharks do have a 2.6 total. It's not like we were talking the Sharks had a 3.5. They have a 2.6. So I think Sorokin. And then my hat trick pick is going to be Jonathan Huberdeau.
All right, there you go. Jonathan Huberdeau, Andrew Mangiapane are your 2 hat trick picks. We got to get out of here. Don't forget 4 NBA shows coming up starting in 1 hour. We will be back with the NHL show tomorrow afternoon. For producer Tyler, for Josh, the single entry assassin, I'm Michael Clifford saying good luck tonight, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.